Okay, נעשה ונעשה ברחמנא לוי, בעזרת השם we'll be doing זרע שמשון, פרשת חוקת, פרק ז'. Okay, so it's a bit long. I do not know if will be able to finish, but it's an interesting. It's not hard at all. This time it's not so analytical. Just gives very nice, easy reasons for certain things, and it's nice to know about them. Okay. Midash al-Kut. Midash is like this. V'dibartam el hasela. And you shall speak to the rock. Yeah? This is what happened with Moshe Rabbeinu, as we all know. That he, instead of speaking, he hit the rock, and then that was his mistake, according to most of the poskim. And here HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "V'dibartem el hasela," go and speak to the sela and bring forth water. Amar le, kishanar katan, when you have a little lad, a little person, a young person. Rabo makke oto. His master, or his rabbi, or I won't call it rabbi, but his rav, the one that his teacher, hits him. Not nowadays, forget it. In those times, in the times of Gemara, when kids, if you hit them, they would understand, and then they would, accept it, and that was part of their upbringing. And the Gemara actually says that this is the best way. Even Shlomo HaMelech mentioned it, right? Nowadays, obviously, we have we can't do such things, not because we're afraid of the authorities. Yeah, they're not. Don't get me wrong, not because they're afraid. Because the kids themselves, they're weak. They're too weak. They're too weak to handle such. Maybe it's violent for them. You understand? Not that I say he should, and but this is what the Gemara said. This is how they brought it down. Look, Keshanar katan rabo makeoto. His teacher would hit him in order to put him straight. The kid would not.
Excuse me. So when doesn't the Gemara say about while hitting, it's not really like a hit that's violent, but it's more like a patch on the hand, or a little pull on the ear. Nothing to like really hurt.
Even that nowadays, you would probably end up in prison. I don't know how.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, obviously, not a violent, you make him cry or anything. But yeah, you give him, you put him in a position where he understands that he's done wrong, and this is the way we see it in the Gemara. We see this is how it should be done. And the Gemara says that even Shlomo HaMelech says, if you don't hit your child, he will hate you. He will end up hating you.
And then a person has to know how to hit, because it can't be done out of violence or anger.
Yeah, okay, of course. Oh, yeah, 100%. But this is what the Gemara says. We have to explain it and everything. But in general, we see that there's an idea like this. Okay, it's not. Like nowadays, like you can't even Hashem Yishmor, you can't do. No, in the Gemara we see it, and we see it in the Midashim. Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all people, of all humans. He said very clearly, so he says, what's the word for it? Choser shivto soneh beno. If you lack if you don't use your rod, soneh beno.
If you spare the rod, you spoil the child.
You spoil the child. So we do see there is a certain, you have to understand as well, in a more spiritual understanding, that the kid, until bar mitzvah, he's got only Yetzara. and when he smiles to you, and he says nice things, and he says the please and thank yous, oh, was so well educated and everything. You have to understand it all emanates from the Yetzer Hara. You're educating him, right? But if he's smiling and everything, yeah, you should know it all comes from the Yetzer Hara. He only has Yetzer Hara. That's what he's nice and everything because you're teaching him, and he understands this is a way to live, and this is a way to you're being educated like that. But what does he have? He has no Yetzer Hara Tov, Bichlal, only Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara Tov only comes for the women or the girls at 12 and the other 12 13, right? So anyway, so this is maybe one of the reasons that you do hit kids. Not nowadays, again, not nowadays, but in other words, because it's only Yetzer Hara. They only have Yetzer Hara, and it has to be confronted in a way, again, in a mature way and everything. Okay, let's keep on going. Umelamdo, right? And then you teach him. Keivan shehigdil. Once he's older now, he's grown. The child is already has grown. Bedibur hu meyasero. You tell him off only by words now. You don't. That's enough already. Not that they're not. He says that's enough. What I'm saying is just a small little look, or he says no, not good. That's enough already. He understands what you mean. So it all you start hitting him, and then when he's older, you don't have to hit him anymore. You just tell him once, and that's verbally. You tell him something, and that's it. Good enough. כך אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה. Now, what's this idea? What's the connection? כך אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה. הקדוש ברוך הוא said to Moshe Rabbeinu, כשהיה הסלע, when the rock, הסלע הזה, קטן, הכית אותו שהכית בצור. We have to understand that Moshe Rabbeinu there was two incidents with the rock. There's an incident on the rock at the beginning when they all came to the desert, and then there was no water. So Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, hit the rock. 40 years later, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, speak to the rock. Speak to the rock. Don't hit the rock. Now, this is similar to a child. When it's a young child, so this little rock is like the beginning of his mission, so to speak, in order to bring spring water to the whole Am Israel during the 40 years of being in the desert. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, just speak to the rock. 40 years later, at the beginning, he says, go, he hit the rock. 40 years later, he speaks to the rock, right? Because he's already older, he knows what to do already. You don't have to tell him, you don't have to guide him in a hitting form. כך אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה, כשהיה הסלע הזה קטן, when this little, when the rock was young, meaning the beginning of his days, הכית אותו שהכית בצור. You hit him with a rod. אבל עכשיו, but now, 40 years later, ודיברתם אל הסלע, speak to the rock. שינה עליו פרק אחד, והוא מוציא מים. Say one little thing, and you'll be able to bring forth water מן הסלע. עד כאן לשונו of the midrash. וכבר תמהו העולם מידרש זה. And the whole world don't really understand what is the inner meaning of this midrash, the deeper meaning of this midrash. Okay, even though we spoke, we saw the idea of the sela and the child, the hitting and then the speaking. There is understanding there, but there's we were talking about midrash, so the midrash is always on a deeper level, not only on the the facial understanding. So, ועוד, we're now the second paragraph. ועוד יקשו מפרשים. There were other questions that מפרשים asked על שירת הבאר שפירשו ז"ל, on the שירת הבאר, when Am Israel, they sang, when the bear came, they brought water out, שפירשו ז"ל, וממדבר מתנה. And over there, the Chazal, they explained what it means, the wording umimidbar matana, which is a wording in this week's parasha. It's they were. It says the umimidbar matana, umimatana natiel, or something like that. So, which means what? Which means that Am Yisrael were moving from one place to the other. Im ose adam atzmo kamidbar. What's the idea of this wording umimidbar matana? That the desert is like a present. So Chachamim explain, Im ose adam atzmo kamidbar, if the person makes himself, he prepares himself like a desert. What would that mean? Could anybody explain to me, what does it mean for somebody to become a desert? To be thirsty the whole day? Sweating the whole day?
It's to be very receptive and opened to Devar Hashem.
How to become receptive?
Well, if one lives in the desert, one would know what that means. Because there's nothing else there. There are no buildings like where you live. There's just the sky and the water and the sand
and that's it. Which is what does that mean? What does it really mean when it comes if you translate it to our everyday life?
There's a complete acknowledgement of a certain dependency on Hashem.
Yeah, again, but how do you do that? The idea behind it is that you become like the midbar, which is no gashmiut.
Right.
No gashmiut. There's no gashmiut there. There's no trees. There's nothing. Just sand and water, bikoshi. Nothing. Just heat. There was mamash nothing. So when the person behaves himself in that form, meaning he doesn't run after all the gashmiut of this world. He doesn't run after them. Then the Torah runs after him. That's why the Torah was given them midbar. It's no coincidence. The Torah was given them midbar to show you like this, like it says here. Im ose adam atzmo kamidbar. If the person makes himself like a desert, nothing, right? You're humble. You have not like you don't run after anything. Like you're not connected to this, to all the materialistic values of this world. Torah nitena lo b'matana. The Torah will be given to him as a matana, as a present. That is what's written in this week's parasha. Umimidbar matana. ועל הפסוק, את והב וסופה. There's a pasuk, and from there we'll explain it later on after as well. It says, שני תלמידי חכמים, two תלמידי חכמים, המפלפלים זה עם זה, who are discussing, they're arguing between each other how to understand the piece of Gemara, piece of the Shulchan Aruch, piece of the Torah, of the Chumash, whatever it is, they're learning, and they argue. Have you ever seen how two Talmidei Chachamim argue in the Bet HaMikdash? Maybe, I don't know, for the ladies, I don't know, maybe from the ladies' side, you heard, they can go wild. They can shout, but the beauty is that you shout and everything, and you don't get emotional at all. You can shout and this and that, and you're just explaining your side, and he explains your side, and it's very academic. You don't bring any emotions whatsoever. Meaning, if he tells you something, no, because it's not like that. How can you learn that? It's not like, right? So you don't get emotional and start fighting with him. No, you shouldn't. Right? So these are two תלמידי חכמים, המפלפלים זה עם זה, לא זזו משם עד שנעשו אוהבים זה את זה. Even though sometimes through the argument there might be some resentment between each other, right? For whatever reason, maybe because, as I said before, maybe because they might raise their voice too much. They might say no, whatever, not nice, whatever. No, it doesn't happen, right? Obviously, I'm college for many years now, and Baruch Hashem, you can argue with somebody and tell them, no, you're wrong, and it's very simple. No, you're wrong, and this one, and other people will come and say, yes, he's right. No, he's wrong, and you can have a whole argument, groups of people within the kollel. No, this was there, mapitom, and they said, yeah, and then you bring proof, and the other side keeps quiet, and then they bring another proof, right? It's all very exciting. It can be very, very exciting, very, very rewarding, very academically rewarding as well, apart from the Torah. So at the end, right? They won't. In other words, there's always ahava taking place within the learning, always. Even though at the beginning it might not be so. Think about, yeah. There's always ahava between the Talmidei Chachamim. וכן וממתנה נחליאל, that's a word. וממתנה נחליאל, כמה שניתנה לו התורה במתנה, נחלו That's we saw two pesukim. There's two wordings there. Omimidbar matana. That's when the person has to be like a midbar, like a desert, and he has to show himself that he doesn't run after all the gasness of this year of this world. And then umimatana nachliel, right? Since the Torah already once the Baruch Hu has decided to give you the Torah as a matana, as a present, so then nachalo el ma inyan haTorah im hab'er ותרסו לפי שהתורה נמשלה למים והאריכו בזה. So what's the connection with that, between that and the be'er and the fountain, the spring of water that was coming forth from the rock? The Torah is compared to water. We're going to see now the comparisons to the Torah, certain things. שהלחם הוא משל לתורה שבכתב והמים לתורה שבעל פה. Bread is denotes, right, and gives you a mashal of Torah, and mayim, water, is lechem is compared to Torah shebichtav, which is the written Torah, and the mayim, the water, is considered like Torah shebal peh. Ve'anu nosif le'era'el. Now the Zera Shimshon is going to add, למה נמשלה תורה ללחם, למים, לדבש, וחלב, ויין ושמן? Now the Zera Shimshon is going to explain why did Chachamim explain, or they compared the Torah. Many times when they mention the Torah, they bring it out in the form of lechem, of bread. They compare it, like it's like, we'll see now, what does it mean, lechem? Sometimes it's like water, like we saw now, in Torah Sheba'al Peh. Sometimes it's dvash, honey. Sometimes dvash vechalav, right, and milk. Ve'yayin, and sometimes the Torah is like wine. And sometimes the Torah is compared to shemen, like oil. Okay? בואו תראו נשאיר השירי מידש. ויש לומר, התורה שבכתב משולה ללחם, שהוא עיקר המזון. וכן התורה שבכתב היא עיקר התורה. What is the main Torah? The main Torah is the Torah שבכתב. Torah שבכתב is the written Torah. The Torah that we see written on the Chumash, on the Sefer Torah. Yeah, when you open the Sefer Torah, that is Torah שבכתב. Torah שבעל פה is the Gemara. Is the Gemara. That's Torah שבעל פה. It was given, not the Torah שבעל פה. It was a verbal form of Torah. Now, because of so many pogroms and so much, running from one place to another, etc., Am Yisrael could not take learning the whole of the Torah and remembering the whole Torah. They started to forget. So then they wrote the Gemara in order to, that's Torah Sheba'al Peh. Now, it's written, I mean Torah Sheba'al Peh. It's a verbal. It has to be verbal. No, but it's written. So what's happening here? It's written in a form that you need a rabbi to teach you how to learn. And then that it keeps, and then keeps, you can't stand read like that. You won't understand anything. If you start learning Gemara and start reading, after 2 lines, 1 line, you'll understand what's going on. I don't understand. You get stuck. So you need somebody to help you. Yeah, obviously we know that the rabbis taught each other, yeah, and the chain goes along for generations to come. The Mashiach comes before. So we see that there is a Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay? Now, Torah Shebichtav is meshulal alechem, is compared to bread. Shu Ikar Hamazon is the main source of food, sustenance. V'chen HaTorah Shebichtav היא עיקר התורה. And then, obviously, Torah Shebichtav is the main part of the Torah. It's Torah Shebichtav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. Torah Shebichtav is the main thing. It's written. Whatever is written is much more powerful. והתורה שבעל פה, now Torah שבעל פה משולה למים. That's compared to water. שכשם שמיים הם חינם לכל, ככה תורה שבעל פה חינם לכל. What's the idea of saying that Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Gemara? Well, the Gemara, everything there is like the water, to teach you the same way as water is for free. Yeah, sometimes you have to pay for it, but for free, water, right? If you go to the lake, it's for free. I mean, there's no real, you don't have to pay money for it, really. Okay, it's not meat. Or bread. You go to the lake and to the river and you can drink from it. So that's chinam. That is for free. So too, Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah is also for free, meaning that you don't charge money to teach Torah Sheba'al Peh. You don't teach. You can't. It's asur. As it's written, שבעל פה חינם לכל, שמן הדין, בעיקר הדין, אסור ללמדה בשכר. Strictly speaking, you're not allowed to charge money for teaching Gemara. Sometimes what they do is they charge you for something else on the side, right? There is certain instances where it's mutar, but not directly, okay? Like, for example, a chazan.
They charge for the time, I thought.
You charge for the time, that's it. Okay, so for example, what would he do? He would be doing something else. He's an accountant, or he's a lawyer, or would be teaching somewhere else. So that amount of money you can pay. You're not paying for the Torah, you're paying for the losses that he's having somewhere else to teach him. Yeah, for example, chazan that you employ for Shabbat or for the Chagim, for example, right? So if he's going to charge money to become a chazan on Shabbat, so he's working on Shabbat and he's gaining money for Shabbat. That's an issue. So what does he do? He says mincha before Shabbat, right? and he charges the $5,000 he's supposed to get for the chazanut he's going to do for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, whatever it is. Okay, you and then the thing is for free, and then the whole chag is for free. You can do it that form. Oh yeah, but specifically for Torah Sheba'al Peh to teach Gemara, it's asur. כדאית בגמרא, also Gemara says, ובשולחן ערוך יורה דעה, רש מ"ו, סעיף ה' over there he brings it down. Next page. So now we saw that the Torah is compared to bread, compared to water. ולפי שהתורה נדרשת, second page, yeah? ולפי שהתורה נדרשת בארבעה פנים, because the Torah has can be explained in four ways, which is what? Pshat, which is the simple meaning of what's written in the Torah. Right? What happened to Moshe? What happened to this halacha? What's understanding of this? That is, so simple understanding, the pshat. Then there's remez. Remez is already on a hint form. There's a certain word, a certain understanding, two cases. That's remez. Then you have drash. This is what the midrash is all about on a much deeper level. And then you have sod. Sod is already on the Kabbalistic side. Over here, it's teaching you what's happening in Shamayim, the Sefirot, in certain cases, whatever it is, right? So these are the four levels of four depths, okay? Obviously within the Pshat there's many depths, and then the Sod as well, but these are the four main levels there are, the four depths there are in learning Torah. Mishum hachi nimshelet לארבעה דברים האחרים. Because of that, the Torah is also compared to four other things. That what? Shayayin romez lepshat. Wine is compared to the simple understanding of the Torah. Shu ikar Torah, which is the main part of the Torah, as we saw. So we saw Torah shebichtav is the main part, and now we're also seeing this the other side to it, or the same side, which is Torah shebichtav, the pshat. The pshat, the simple meanings, the simple understanding of what really happened in the story, or this or the other. Shu ikar Torah, which is the main part of the Torah. Okay, in other words, you've got four levels, but the main one is the first one, which is pshat, which is simple understanding. וצריך חוכמה גדולה להבין פשט הכתובים ועיקר הדינים. You need a lot of good chokhmah to be able to understand even the pshat. And don't think it's like Vayomer Hashem and Moshe, and he said Moshe. No, we're not talking about at that level. That is translating. We're talking about understanding what really happened. If you have any questions, pshat simple meaning doesn't mean that you don't have good questions. It's good meanings, and you have to have. You have to know. You have to be pretty knowledgeable to be able to understand even this first level. הכתובים ועיקר הדינים, and the main dinim, the main halachot which you get from the Torah. ושם יש כל הפלפול והמלחמה של תורה לפקח הלב והשכל. Over there you have to understand the pshat of the Torah is also Torah shebichtav. Torah sheba'al peh, the Gemara. You have to have a lot of chokhmah to be able to understand Gemara. It's not easy for those who've learned Gemara. It's a massive challenge. Yeah, I don't know why the Chilonim say that we sit down and do nothing. If they would come and spend even 1 hour trying to understand, they would run away. Understand how hard it is. It's extremely hard. Obviously, once you're in it, so then it becomes sweet, very, very sweet, and it's beautiful. But it's not easy. You have to have chokhmah gedolah to be able to understand this. Okay? ושם יש כל הפלפול והמלחמה של תורה, לפקח הלב והשכל. Over there, in the Pshat, in the Gemara, you have all the intricacies and all the understanding that all the wars, meaning all the arguments of the Torah, לפקח הלב והשכל. You'll be very, you'll end up being very sharp. You'll end up being very sharp in your understanding of things, of everything around you. You'll hear somebody speak, and you'll be able to analyze every single word that he says and how he says it from the years that go by of dissecting every single word in the Gemara, understanding what's written and this and that, and have a pilpul and be able to argue and understand and remember. This helps you in every anything that's every everyday life issue. And when you hear somebody speak, you'll be able to understand him and understand what is really hurting him, or what is he really asking, or what it is. Yeah, you can pick up a shakran, a liar, very quickly, much quicker. Why? Because you'll be able to analyze him and say, wow, he's lying. Can't you see that he said before this and now he's saying this? Why did he change? Why this?